Good evening and welcome to the City of Glendale Civil Service Commission special meeting on this July 29, 2020. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Storian? Commissioner McCarley?
Yes, present.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Present.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Here.
Chair Guzarian?
Here. Thank you. Next item, please.
Oral communications?
I see no messages as to any request for oral communications. Hearing none and seeing none. Next item, please.
Minutes for the meeting of June 10, 2020?
Any motion to approve?
Albert Carey, motion to approve. And dispense with reading.
Any second?
Second from McCarley.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Storian?
Do we have the audio for Commissioner Astorian?
We don't have a video either. He might have dropped out.
Commissioner Astorian, turn on your microphone if it's off by accident.
He's muted, yeah.
But you keep turning it off.
Oh, I'm not controlling it, sir. That's above my pay grade.
No, Mr. Astorian was turning it off then talking.
I see. So can we have Mr. Astorian's vote?
Yes, the answer is, my vote was yes.
Thank you. Next.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Chair Guzarian?
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Recruitment and examination report.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is our recruitment and examination status report for July. These are all of our recruitments at various stages where we list the position, the department, the filing periods, examination dates. As you can see, there are a lot of exams listed. Many of them have been suspended due to a partial hiring freeze, as well as the struggles we've had recently with the COVID-19 and scheduling things. But as per my presentation last month, the processes that are moving forward have ended up being quite labor intensive, and we're moving ahead with several of those. This is a note and file item, but if you have any questions, I do have staff available to answer those for you. So with that, it's a note and file.
Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none. If it's a note and file item, I believe we move on to the next item, please.
Eligible list established.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle?
Chair, members of the Commission, this is our eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting, which has been a little over a month. This list shows the number of recruitments that have been essentially completed, and we have the total number of applicants received, as well as in the far right, the total number who have made it onto the lists. We modified this report a little bit to just show the attendance at the various phases of the exam, and it's I think it was a request by the Commission to kind of see where we're losing candidates as well. So at this point, we have 9 lists that have been established since our last meeting. Oddly enough, they all happen to be open recruitments. Usually there's some promotional and open mixed together, but here they are. So again, 9 lists. This is a note and file item, does not require any action, but obviously if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Any question from any of the commissioners? I'm generally waiting a few seconds in case there's a delay. I hear none. Thank you. Next item, please.
Class specifications for approval, Administrator Specialist Series, Customer Service Operations Supervisor Series, and Legal Secretary Series.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle?
Chair, members of the Commission, these are class specifications for approval for those 3 series that were mentioned. Really, the purpose of this item is to begin to address a subject that has long needed to be reviewed, and that's whether to continue with these typing speed requirements that have long been part of our class specifications and our job descriptions. When I started in this organization over 30 years ago, typing was a significant part of various clerical, secretarial, and administrative positions. Back in those days, we had employees who would spend pretty much their entire day either typing or doing data entry. Most of those jobs are either gone or they've evolved into other areas where typing speed is really a non-essential factor for many of these jobs. For some of the administrative and supervisorial type jobs, there's other skills, analytical skills, research skills, technical skills that are far more important than typing speed. And having these typing speed requirements has caused us to lose good candidates over the years, because oftentimes we'll test the candidates, and by the time we get down to after the typing test screening, when we get time down for the interview process, in some cases we will have lost some really well-qualified candidates at that point and be left with a small number of eligibles. We've recently done some recruitments for legal secretary, for example, and again, we've lost some very outstanding, experienced, credentialed individuals who've been knocked out of the process because they couldn't pass a test for typing 60 words per minute. So what we're proposing with this, as the report indicates, is some modifications to those, and in some areas actually dropping it or lowering it. As the report does state, we have reached out to other neighboring cities to see what they do. I've actually consulted a few trusted colleagues of mine in the test validation profession, and really we're finding that that speed typing is just not, or no longer, an essential function of most of these jobs. Basic keyboarding is fine, and I would say your average person can type between 20-35 words per minute, but oftentimes it's really more important that our candidates be able to format a document or prepare a spreadsheet, or really just know the basics of applications such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and really the ability to write and reason and analyze. So with these 3 series, and again, 2 of them are within the Community Development Department, and one is obviously the Legal Secretarial series, we have brought some revisions, and really the primary, as I said earlier, the primary change would be the either the reduction or dropping of the typing speed requirements. So with that, this is an item that does require commission action. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Mr. Petrosian worked on this item, as well as I think you've worked with Community Development Department and Legal Department. So we have Mr. Lanzafame and Mr. Garcia available as well.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
This is Albert Afkarian. I just have one quick, very small addition. If it's a customer service supervisor with knowledge and skills instead of just saying good customer service practices, could we say excellent or exceptional or something else than just good customer service practices? Could we change that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Afkarian, we can certainly do that. I see where, I assuming you're talking on page 11, the middle portion of that. We can change that to exceptional, because that is pretty much the city standard these days, and exceptional customer service is it's one of our mottos. So yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
This is McCarley. A question for the proponent, and that is with respect to heavy typing or transcription. Is that activity outsourced, or has it been replaced by voice dictation or other methods of data entry?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner McCarley, I am not aware that there's much of that going on in any of our departments any longer, and perhaps maybe defer to either Mr. Garcia or Mr. Lanzafame if they're aware of any of that, because I know Mr. Lanzafame has several boards and commissions. Mr. Garcia has, the traditional legal work being done in the office, but I'm not aware that there's a lot of, heavy transcription going on, but perhaps you can enlighten the commissioner.
And I would appreciate that. You've certainly focused on two of the department heads who perhaps have the greatest need for that type of capability, whatever the mechanism is for entering data or creating documents. For instance, since I have another occupation besides service on the commission, much of our work consists of the preparation of fairly extensive briefs and documentation, some of which are prepared by the lawyers, but often through the use of transcription, a variety of tapes and mechanisms. We submit that to some very, very competent stenographers who will then go forward and produce documents. And they do indeed have the typing capability in excess of 50 words a minute. Perhaps as well, although I have not served as a member of Mr. Lanzafame's staff, but in the preparation of draft reports or EIRs or parcel maps or other documentation that requires substantial amount of data entry, character development, character entry. It appears to me that typing might still be a skill, and it might be beneficial, notwithstanding perhaps the impact on recruiting, to retain that capability. But I'm more curious than I am directive at this point.
This is, good afternoon, members of the commission. This is Mike Garcia, City Attorney. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner McCarley, for that question. As time has gone on, and you're correct, I mean, certainly for our office in years past, we've had a higher level of typing speed and probably more typing that occurs. At the time, as newer attorneys have come on board, most of the attorneys are doing their own typing, except for maybe a unique circumstance of whether it's a motion for summary judgment or demur. It's usually being handled by the lawyer or the paralegal on some of this stuff. And so to Mr. Doyle's point, it really, the secretarial work that sort of legal secretarial work that's being done in our office really is about knowing the court procedures, working on compiling these motions, working on trial documents, that sort of thing. And we really have found, and fully agree with Mr. Doyle's statement that the speed with which folks type is not as imperative as it once was.
I appreciate that input, and of course, I will indicate that I would defer to the department heads in this matter because they have the ultimate responsibility for the quality of the work produced by their employees. So, but I appreciate the commentary. Just as an additional note, we have seen the transformation of the workplace in your office and mine, and since we have 4 lawyers on the commission, I assume that it applies across the board, where the attorneys themselves are hunting and pecking for the purpose of producing documents. All success to them, although I think some of us can reach back to the point in which perhaps the documents were made at far greater speed through the use of, through the excellent skills of our stenographers at that time. But again, I defer to the leadership of our city.
Thank you. Any further inquiries, questions, or comments? Hearing none.
Robert Terry, move to approve.
Thank you. Any second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Astorian? Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Hartunian?
Yes.
Commissioner Abkarian?
Yes.
Chair Kazarian?
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Reports?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, the only report we have is the late performance evaluation, and I will say this is somewhat remarkable. What we've been able to do is, as the commission remembers, we gave a bit of a grace period during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we are still into the pandemic. But we gave departments some additional time to turn in their evaluations due to the fact that many employees were working remotely, and many departments had to revamp their missions and goals in order to better serve the public during this time. So right now we have two that have reached the second notice. We did not require the department heads to be there just because, number one, these would not have been late had we stuck to our normal meeting time, which would have been the second Wednesday of the month, and it's only because we moved the meeting to the 29th that these are even late at all. Additionally, we felt it appropriate to continue that grace period. Our staffing situation right now is such that we're still not completely back to work with everyone working on site. We've started bringing employees back to the work site, at least in the City Hall area, towards the mid to late June, and we're still at a point when we still have a significant number of employees rotating in, working remotely, and so we're getting there. But I will say by our next meeting, which is September the 9th, we should be completely up to speed with all of the departments and their late evaluations. So with that, again, this is for your information only, and note and file.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Next item, please.
Civil Service Commission staff comments.
Any comments from my fellow commissioners? Hearing none, I have a brief comment. On July 13, Monday afternoon, I witnessed, I was a witness to quite a bit of hard work, very up close and personal in the neighborhood that I reside in, where multiple company or engine companies, as we call them, I don't know the right characterization, the fire department of the city of Glendale responded with assistance with helicopter from the sheriff's fire department, and put out what would have ended up being a rather really tragic fire that caught on the Chevy Chase hillside area. And I want to thank the men and women of the fire department for doing that. My family, my children and I, we were seeing it from our backyard, and it was quite frightening, and it was very demonstrative of the dangerous and devoted work that these men and women do for the city. Thank you. Next item, please. Oh, I believe we're going to go into a closed session, and then we will report out, but not on public camera or what is this, WebEx or Zoom setting. Is that correct, Ms. Marbetian?
It is, but we're going to read the item into the record.
Oh, we're going to read the item. Okay. Yes, go ahead, sir. Thank you. Please read the item into the agenda, into the record.
Closed session, public employee appointment, emergency services coordinator.
Thank you. So at this point, we will conclude our public broadcast of the session, the open session. Yes, Mr. Doyle?
I will remind the entire commission and any participants in the closed session to remain on the WebEx. Don't hang up. Just stay there, and we'll get back into this in a few minutes. So.
Thank you, everyone.